It wasn't even a test. Somebody just hit the wrong button.
It wasn't until 38 minutes later that a correction was sent to cell phones, saying it was all a false alarm.
What if there actually was an attack and a missile coming in? I mean, it was a circus of errors.
Days away from a fast approaching deadline for Congress to pass a spending bill. And a deal on DACA remains a key sticking point.
Everybody should be thanking him, trying to get to the bottom of this.
Representatives from North and South Korea have agreed to meet for follow-up talks on next month's Winter Olympics.
Ryan flips one into the end zone with a prayer, incomplete. The first playoff win for the Eagles since the 2008 season.
Rachel, repeat what you just said.
This is absolutely one of my favorite songs. This is on the Pancake playlist at the Duffy House, by the way.
The Pancake playlist.
Wait, you actually have that in your phone? You
We
have a
actually
pancake
have the
playlist?
Pancake playlist.
So while you're making pancakes in the
on
morning,
Saturday mornings, this is on the playlist. Thank you, Kid Rock.
later on in the show, she's going to reveal what else is on the pancake.
Oh, yeah, I'll do that.
Now America wants to
I
know.
will.
And we
I
love
will.
Kid Rock. I want him to be the next senator from Michigan. Apparently he's not running, but
Yes,
I wish he
you were,
was.
you were heartbroken.
I was heartbroken. I spent 20 minutes once at a wedding trying to convince Kid Rock to run for the Senate. That's
What'd he
real
say?
news.
What'd he say?
He laughed at me. But I
thought he was
tried,
gonna do
America. I tried. And
He
it
laughed
did
all the
not
way
work.
through all of his extra concert sales, too.
Well, you know, it's a corny transition, but true. You know who wasn't laughing for a little bit yesterday? Some of the residents of Hawaii, because as you heard
All
in
of
the
them.
opening, well, all of the residents, good point,
Yeah.
and all the visitors in Hawaii, because on their cell phone, they got an alert, as we played in the open, that said this. One of these emergency alerts went to all 1.3 Hawaiians and any visitors. It said, ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. And as you can, there's the alert that popped
But it
up
took
on everyone's phone.
38 minutes, Pete, for a false alarm tweet to come out. So
Correct.
38 minutes, people taking shelter. Kind of
A
scary.
little quicker over Twitter, but Leland, you pointed out, people aren't checking Twitter when they're grabbing their cash and their guns and their kids and their food.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, well, you know,
Scary.
we labeled this not really fake news, but mistake news that came out. And it was a comedy of errors. It was a state-run system. Some guy quite literally hit the wrong button because evidently in Hawaii, as Dan Bongino pointed out, a democratically run state in every way. It's harder to get money out of an ATM than it is to send out this alert. But rather than blame the guy who either did this mistakenly or blame a sort of antiquated system that goes all the way back to the 1950s that they have in Hawaii, the left, including Tulsi Gabbard, the congresswoman from Hawaii, within minutes was on the phone blaming the president.
Our leaders have failed us. Donald Trump is taking too long. He's not taking this threat seriously, and there's no time to waste. We've got to get rid of this nuclear threat from North Korea. We've got to achieve peace, not play politics, but achieve peace, because this is literally life and death that is at stake for the people of Hawaii and the people of this country.
She's not the one. I was just going to say, Representative Gabbard is not the only one blaming Trump. Hollywood jumped in, and here's what Dan Bongino had to say about that.
Straight. This is Trump's fault? Now, there are only two explanations, and only two, okay? Number one for Hollywood. Either they are really this stupid and they believe that Trump had something to do with this, or secondly, they're lying because they have TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, to manipulate people and just destroying their business model even further from, you know, large swath of Americans who will never see their movies because of stupid comments like this.
He's responding to a couple of tweets, one from Jim Carrey, another from Jamie Lee Curtis, immediately going to the president. But I go back to Tulsi Gabbard. It took her 5 words to get to President Trump's name. She's an Iraq War veteran. She's very liberal, but she's usually thoughtful. And in this case, she's screaming, she wants peace. Well, of course, we all want peace. Yeah. But to get to peace, you've got to have sober-minded people pursuing policies that actually work. And to point the finger at President Trump when, as Dan Bongino said, it was kind of the equivalent of a butt dial, a mistake alert.
He called
that went out
it
to
the equivalent of a butt dial.
It's kind of pretty funny, actually. Why go right there? This is a complicated policy that deserves a solution.
I may answer that. Why go right there? Because if you really want to talk about North Korea and who is to blame, you go back to the Clinton administration. You go back to a failed nuclear deal there.
1994.
The same woman who was involved in that is the same one who was involved in the Iran nuclear deal. It brings up a lot of inconvenient questions for Democrats, especially for people in the state of Hawaii, about how ready they are, what their state emergency response system is. Well, it's just a lot easier to go, oh, no, this is the president's problem.
Yeah,
but one thing you can't, whether you like the president or not, you can't say that since day one he hasn't been talking about North Korea and trying a new approach. Again, whether you agree with that approach or not, he's trying to do something different. And what we do know is that what we were doing before was not working, which is why we're under this threat.
South Koreans say it is working now.
Exactly right. Yeah, they thank him for the talks that are occurring. Well, speaking of some other talks that occurred this week, we know about the televised meeting that was on, I believe, Tuesday about DACA and the wall, where Democrats were put on the record in front of the cameras. Then there was a private meeting that occurred on Thursday, the one that famously everyone was talking about because of some salty language used or not used inside that meeting when Dick Durbin went and ran to the cameras and tattled on the president. Well, an aide of Senator Dick Durbin, of the Democrat in that meeting, went to the Hill and framed how they viewed this meeting that happened on Thursday. This is what the aide to Dick Durbin said to the Hill. He said, Senator Graham and Durbin expected to have a meeting. They showed up, and there's this, quote, anti-immigrant cast of characters there, and that was obviously designed by Stephen Miller to try to kill the deal. So they're claiming that Dick Durbin and Senator Graham thought they were coming to show their plan to the president that he would bless off on. Instead, there were other people in the room. I think we have the full screen of who those folks were. Representative Goodlatte, Tom Cotton, David Perdue. Anti-immigrant cast of characters is how Senator Durbin's staff describes them. Others would say they're committed to border security and following through on what the president has said. So if you want a good deal, and we know, Rachel, that originally what Senator Graham had proposed was not what the president proposed. Why wouldn't you have people in the room who are going to fortify the president's position?
Not even close. You know, I have a theory on this. I know they want to say that, you know, the senators in the room and Steve Miller don't want a deal. I think the people who don't want a deal are Democrats. The meeting that we had earlier in the week, it was such a high mark for the president. It was really a moment where you really thought this was going to come together because
Democrats were put on the record.
They were put on the record, and it was very clear what had to happen. A compassionate solution for these children who were brought here through no fault of their own, the DACA recipients. All you needed to do was give the president money for the wall and chain migration and end the lottery system that a lot of Americans don't like anyway. That's all we need to do, and you got a deal. And I honestly believe that the reason they don't want to see that deal come together is because once you solve that piece of the problem, the president hinted that we could move forward to maybe dealing with the comprehensive broken immigration system with a solution for that. And that is trouble for Democrats because they don't want a solution. I say this as a Hispanic woman. They don't want a solution to this because they love to use this as a club over the Republican parties, and they are so afraid of Republicans being the leaders in charge of solving this and not being able to take credit for it. Because I think if you take immigration off the table, Hispanics look a lot like Republicans.
There's a little evidence based in as the reporting is coming out to what you're just saying. The Democrats don't really want a deal. Nancy Pelosi now coming out and saying we need to have a clean DACA bill rather than have a deal. Dianne Feinstein said essentially the same thing. We had that Keith Ellison soundbite yesterday. But you go back to that quote. This is to the Hill newspaper. This is a pretty old Washington tactic. When a meeting doesn't go the way you want it to go, you don't go back in and argue and try to negotiate a better deal. You come out, you leak something that is highly incendiary, a.k.a. the salty language allegedly used by the president, and then you have aides go out and create a boogeyman in Stephen Miller, who everybody on the left loves to blame. And now all of a sudden the discussion isn't about the deal, Pete, that you brought up. It's about the issue that you brought up, Rachel.
Mm-hmm, right.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say, if you're a dreamer, I understand why you're nervous here. Your expiration date in this country is coming up. And I think that a lot of times the left is saying it's the Republicans. No, go talk to the Democrats because this president wants a deal. He tweeted yesterday, I'm ready to make a deal. He's a deal maker. He's the art of the deal. Give me the wall, end chain migration, and the lottery system. You got the deal.
Well, in order to make a deal, though, there has to be someone else in the room with you.
Right.
In this particular case, there was a Democrat, and at this another place, a forum where things are discussed and the public is to see it, is the State of the Union. Well, more news because we are now learning that both Representatives John Lewis and now the newer name, which is not surprising, Maxine Waters, are boycotting the State of the Union because of President Trump. Take a listen to these two.
The words and his action tend to speak like one who knows something about being a racist. It must be in his DNA. I do not plan to attend the State of the Union.
The United States of America is represented by the most despicable human being that could possibly ever walk the earth. I don't trust him, I don't appreciate him, and I wouldn't waste my time sitting in that house listening to what he has to say.
Niger Innis, the spokesman for the Congress of Racial Equality, says Dems are sending an unhealthy message. This is him earlier on the show.
Very unhealthy message and signal that is sent. And you would think that these far-left progressives, even though they disagree with the ideology of our president, that they would applaud 3 to 4% growth, record numbers in the stock market, record low black unemployment. You know, this president's actions speak far louder than his tweets and his alleged words.
You know, when you don't have power, the White House, the Senate, or the House, you have two choices. You either come to the table and negotiate, knowing the terms aren't going to be yours, or you resist and you don't sit at the table. And more evidence that the Democrats remain committed to that resist. You talk about what a deal could look like, but your point about Nancy Pelosi saying they want a clean DACA bill,
that's where they're going with this. Earl Blumenauer, a representative from Oregon, says that he is not going to waste his time by listening to a, quote, another destructive, divisive speech by going, and look, we've seen this before. John Lewis would not even go to a speech by President Trump dedicating a civil rights museum. And it's your point, Pete. It's about resisting. It's about making a point rather than trying to help the American people. It's the only answer.
But it's the liberal answer. I'll tell you this. I didn't vote for Barack Obama, but I took my family to see his inauguration because it was an honor to be there.
And the voters at the ballot box are going to get to choose. Do they want constructive solutions? They want black unemployment to go down and the policies that have made that happen? Or do they want to invest in resisting this president? It's just that kind of choice, but those are the stark dynamics that we'll see in 2018. Well, still ahead. First, Google's fact checker targets conservative sites. Now YouTube is accused of censoring conservative videos, including one hosted by yours truly. Does this all come down to a political agenda? We'll talk to Dennis Prager and Prager University coming up.
If only I could censor you so easily. And we now know how Nancy Pelosi feels about the president's economic ideas.
In terms of the bonus that corporate America received versus the crumbs that they are giving to workers to kind of put the schmooze on is so pathetic. It's so pathetic.
So pathetic. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi slamming tax reform bonuses as mere crumbs, but economists predict it will lead to economic growth for years to come.
So why can't Democrats give the president credit for the booming economy and setting the stock market on fire? Stuart Varney is the host of Varney & Company on FBN, and he joins us with more on this. So she says it's crumbs. Tell us what it says about the strength of this economy.
I would like to see multi-millionaire Nancy Pelosi talk about pathetic crumbs when Walmart workers, 1 million of them, get $1,000 bonuses. I'd like to see what happens then, because that is not pathetic crumbs to those people. Look, there are two things going on in America today: enriching all Americans. They're not being covered, and President Trump is not getting the credit that he deserves. Item number one, these bonuses and wage increases as a result of tax cuts. At this moment, more than 150 companies have committed to giving bonuses to more than 2 million workers. At the end of last year, the annual bonuses were more than about double what they were in 2016. This is a huge shot in the arm. It's the result of this tax cut deal, and I think President Trump should get the credit for it. Item number two, the most explosive stock market rally that we've seen in modern times. If you take a look at it, the Dow Industrial Average was at 18,000 when the election was held. Today, it's approaching 26,000. It's gone up over 7 1,000-point milestones in the last 13, 14 months. That's explosive.
It is.
Now, no one's talking about a bubble either. I mean, they're saying this is grounded in real fundamentals.
No, it is. It's grounded in high profitability and strong economic growth. And you always hear that these gains in the stock market, they just benefit the rich, the 1% people. That is not accurate. The value of all stocks has gone up $7.8 trillion from the election to now.
But they're also trying to say that it's Obama that did it.
Yes, there is.
Yes. What do you say to someone who, whose cousin is saying it's not Trump's economy, it's Obama laid the foundation for this?
I vigorously disagree. President Trump reversed the policies of President Obama. In reversing those policies, he reversed our economic decline. We are now growing rapidly compared to the last 10 years. Yeah. We've got the lowest unemployment rate in, I think, 17 years. We're right at 4%, and we're creating new jobs at a much better pace than we've created before. That is Trump's doing. That is because of deregulation, it's because of tax cuts, and it's because he really wants to make America great again economically. He's opening the door to prosperity. That's why you've got a stock market that's gone to the moon since the election. I think he should get the credit for it.
Does it go to Mars, yes or no?
No, I'm not in the business of forecasting the stock market.
All right, well,
I'm not.
the tape's running. Stuart, always good to see you.
Thank you,
may not forecast it, but a lot of news about it. 9 to noon on FBN, Monday to Friday as the bell rings. Great to have you as always.
Thank you very much, one and all. Thank you.
All right, coming up, Sarah Carter here to talk about a lot of breaking news as it relates to Uranium One.
And is YouTube censoring conservative videos, including one with me? Initially dismissed by President Obama as the JV team, ISIS took control of a large part of the country. Dennis Prager.
Headlines for you on this Sunday morning. It's business as usual for the New England Patriots, the defending Super Bowl champions, dismantling the Tennessee Titans, as they will do many teams in the future. This, the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, 35-14. Tom Brady and the Pats head to their 7th straight AFC title game. It was a different story in Philadelphia. The one-seeded Eagles, the underdog at home against the Atlanta Falcons. This one going down to the wire.
In trouble. Ryan flips one into the end zone with a prayer, incomplete.
Their backup quarterback led the charge against the former NFC champs, 15-10. They play the winner of today's matchup between the Saints and the Vikings.
That's right. Who let Leland Reed Sports have that person fired now?
And a Photoshop fail is going viral after a mom posts hilarious family pictures. A woman claiming to be a professional photographer in Missouri, giving the family the final product after they shelled out $250. The photographer retouching the pictures to remove shadows, and she actually admitted to what we all know, picture proof, that she never learned how to use Photoshop. The Zarings say they don't want their money back because the pictures are just too funny, and they now have Christmas cards for life.
Outstanding. Thanks, Leland. Appreciate it. Well, is YouTube unfairly censoring videos with conservative viewpoints? Many videos from Prager University have been put on a restricted status on YouTube, including one of my own on the Iraq War. Initially dismissed by President Obama as the JV team, ISIS took control of a large part of the country. Its black flag soon flew over Mosul, Fallujah, Ramadi, and many other cities that American troops had secured at great cost. The war that George W. Bush had won, Barack Obama had lost. PragerU is now suing YouTube over censorship, while its parent company, Google, claims that some videos were restricted simply because they're inappropriate for younger audiences. But does all this boil down to a political agenda?
Syndicated radio host and founder of PragerU.com, Dennis Prager, joins us. Welcome. So why is Pete's video being banned by YouTube?
There's really no answer except, there's only one possible answer. There's no answer except politics. If the video is deemed too pro-American, I think that's perhaps the only constant, and that's not a full constant. I'll give you an example of another. We have a video from the former Prime Minister of Denmark. On the entire video is why the world is better if America leads. That's on the restricted list. So if it's pro-America or there are a handful of pro-Israel as well, Alan Dershowitz, who is a foremost liberal, he's not even a conservative, gives one of the courses, and he's on the restricted list. It's completely away. There's no other possible explanation other than ideological.
How do you find out you are?
You realize.
I was just going to say, how did you find out that you were being banned? Did they send you a list or?
No. People simply told us, hey, we couldn't watch you in a library. We couldn't watch you at our school. We couldn't watch you because our family puts filters on pornography. Isn't that amazing? I mean, Pete, tell them how pornographic your video was.
I know, it goes on, and it's just terrible. And
on
shouldn't
and on,
be viewed
exactly.
by anyone of a vulnerable mind. I mean, Dr. Prager, you raised such an important point. We've got a couple other videos that have been restricted from PragerU, not just mine on the Iraq War, but we've got one on why America must lead.
42 of them.
42 of them. What's wrong with e-cigarettes?
42 of the 300.
42 of the 300.
My video, I had a video on, I did one on the 10 Commandments. I did one, they're all 5 minutes for those viewers who are not familiar with Prager University. I did 10, one on each of the 10 Commandments. And the one, do not murder, was just reinstated. It had been on the restricted list for at least half a year. Now, God knows, we don't want kids to learn do not murder.
No,
I mean, think of how absurd it is.
Where does this go, though, Doctor? I mean, ultimately, they're trying to do it secretly. You've got a petition to change it, but you've got PragerU's had over 1 billion views. I mean, these videos are important to people who want to learn both sides of the issue. How does this change?
That's
How do you
right.
get this reversed?
Well, that's the thing. We're so big, and we're changing minds of young people. 65% of those who view us are under 35 years of age. Last year was 600 million views alone, just last year, and 1 billion altogether. So we're having a very big impact, and this is bothering folks on the left who are trying to do the internet at Google, YouTube. Google owns YouTube. What the left is doing at the universities.
Exactly right.
So
Stamping out all non-left-wing ideas.
Well, you've done an
People
amazing...
can help if they go to PragerU.com. Those of you watching, please know to sign a petition. The legal bills are serious. We provide these things for free, but it's a serious service. And we have 4 Pulitzer Prize winners giving. This is a very serious operation. And we should be extolled, not censored.
Well, absolutely.
But if Google gets away with this, the YouTube, the world communications will be deeply affected.
Just like they censor on college campuses, they want to do the same thing on the internet, and they see a powerful force like PragerU, and they want to shut it down. If folks haven't seen PragerU in their videos, I mean, they do let rabble like me host them every once in a while, but usually they're credible people hosting great videos, making great arguments. Doctor, thank you for everything you do at PragerU, and our folks, I'm sure, will be visiting the website to sign that petition. We did reach out to YouTube, just like PragerU. We did not get a response, shockingly. So. Right. Dr. Dennis Prager, thanks a lot. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Scary stuff.
It is. It really is. Coming up, an indictment just handed out in the Uranium One scandal. This executive now charged with bribing a Russian official. Sarah Carter says this could have major national security implications. She's here next.
Plus, he befriended Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez, but now Sean Penn says President Trump is the real enemy.
Purchased Uranium One, which controls 20% of the U.S. uranium. Sort of a bizarre decision in the first place. Here's the Clinton connection with it. She was also on that board.
Right.
And only 4 months before this decision was made, Bill Clinton got $500,000 for a speech in Russia. And guess who paid for that speech? The Renaissance Capital, an entity made up of foreign Russian intelligence officers who were touting the stock Uranium One.
Is Victoria Tensing on the program in November. She's the lawyer for the whistleblower on the Uranium One case as well. We're going to bring in Sarah Carter, Fox News contributor and investigative journalist, who's also all over this. So we're learning now of an indictment in the Uranium One case of an executive charged with bribing a Russian official. What do you know, and what does it mean?
Well, Mark Lambert, he's 54 years old. After he left Transportation Logistics International, remember, this is the company that he and Darren Condry, the other person that was indicted in this case, American connected to this company, this was the company that would move the uranium that was imported into the United States. And they bribed the Russians, and they worked with the Russians to get all of these contracts. Now, think about this. Mark Lambert, this is his history. He's a U.S. Navy veteran. He served in Operation Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and when he came back from the military, he was an Arabic linguist. He became a U.S. intelligence analyst. Here we have a U.S. intelligence analyst now being indicted for bribing the Russians and working with the Russians to move uranium inside the United States that was being imported from Russia. I mean, the national security implications of this case so far exceed what the charges are. It's incredible.
Sarah, when we listened to Victoria as she set up this segment, Victoria Tunzu, in that soundbite, she laid out this sort of quid pro quo, pay-to-play idea involving the Clinton Foundation. We now know there is an FBI investigation into pay-to-play within the Clinton Foundation, that being led out of the FBI office down in Arkansas in Little Rock. Are they looking specifically into this? Are they looking into other things? Connect this indictment to that investigation for us.
I think they're looking at everything, Leland. They're looking at the entire Clinton Foundation dealings. Look, there were 5 FBI field offices, from what I was told, that were involved in the Clinton Foundation. The Clinton Foundation case was never actually shut down within the FBI. The fact that the Little Rock office now is interviewing a very credible witness that has information on what we believe is pay-to-play and the Clintons' involvement in a lot of these different scandals is significant. What I want to know is the Miami office, the New York office, the Chicago office, I've been told, are they also investigating? That's very important, because remember, it's not just about the Uranium One case. There was the case regarding Haiti and the money that was, probably mishandled or misused in Haiti. We know that the Haitian people have been up in arms over what happened after the 2010 earthquake, that barely a fraction of the $13.3 billion that was actually donated ever got to them. So we really want to look at everything here. And we don't know what the FBI is actually looking at, because, of course, that's classified. They're keeping that very close hold. The fact that we know that the Little Rock office is questioning people is very significant, because that means that they have resurged this investigation, and we'll just have to see how far it goes.
Well, Sarah, Devin Nunes, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, has reportedly told some colleagues of his in the House that he has evidence of abuse of the government surveillance program. What are we going to learn this coming week about that?
Rachel, Rachel, I think this is huge, because Devin Nunes had the ability and has had the ability right now to look at all of what they call the 302s. That's the FBI interviews with witnesses. So what he has seen has raised such alarm bells. It's raised such alarm bells that he has seen an extensive abuse of these FISA warrants. Look, every time I talk to someone overseas, if I call someone in Pakistan, if I call someone in Germany, if a congressional member, a senator, anybody calls someone overseas, that's all collected. That's all kept and stored. The unmasking of an American requires so much more. You can't just unmask Americans. You can look at the conversation possibly if it's a foreigner, but you can't just say, hey, I want to unmask this person for no reason. You have to have reason to unmask. That means that there's been a crime committed or something of that nature. And I think what he's seen is extensive abuse, and I want to know who those witnesses are that the FBI interviewed, because I think that's going to be very telling.
And it just feels like it's building and building, almost unfolding or unraveling, depending on your perspective. Do you expect more headlines this week?
Yes, Pete, I expect really significant headlines. I expect we're going to find out a lot, and I'm concerned. And I think the American people deserve to know the truth. There needs to be some kind of restructuring. We need to overhaul what's going on here. Remember, Rand Paul says that he's going to try to filibuster the, FISA 702 is up for reauthorization in the Senate. It passed the House. He says he's going to try to filibuster it. Look, it's a necessary tool for our intelligence community, but it should not be abused. And we need to know the truth if it was.
Well, it's a federal crime to mislead a judge to get a warrant like that. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us and filling us in.
Thank you.
You got it. Turning now to your headlines. Incredible video capturing the aftermath of a Boeing 737 skidding off a runway overnight, nearly nosediving into the Black Sea. The aircraft coming to a rest on the edge of a cliff in northern Turkey. None of the 162 passengers on board were injured. Investigators are looking into what caused the incident. A hook-handed hate preacher is claiming he knew about 9/11 4 days before it happened. Abu Hamza claims Afghan terrorists called him in 2001 about the attack. Hamza thinks British spies tapped his phone, raising questions whether the UK could have prevented it. He's currently appealing a life sentence in solitary confinement, saying the conditions violate his human rights. The disgraced former Army private convicted of leaking classified documents is running for the U.S. Senate. Chelsea Manning is now one of 4 Democratic candidates filing to run in Maryland. Incumbent Democrat Senator Ben Cardin has yet to announce whether he'll seek a 3rd term. Manning, known before as Bradley, before transitioning to a woman in prison, was convicted in 2013 for espionage. President Obama granted her clemency after serving only 7 years of a 35-year sentence. Now, baguettes. Yes, baguettes should be listed as a cultural treasure. That's according to France's President Emmanuel Macron. Why? Because he says baguettes are the envy of the world. Well, Macron is backing bakers who started the baguette campaign, hoping to get the vote from UNESCO. The move would protect the traditional recipe and the quality of the bread.
Well,
Who doesn't like a good baguette?
Traditional French food, right? Well, we thought it's not about French food, it's about American food. What is your favorite signature American food? Rick can smell it from a mile.
Yeah, I've never seen Rick move so quickly.
Back off my favorite food.
There you go. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food.
Rice Krispie treats.
Rice Krispie treats. We got fried chicken. We have key lime pie for you, too.
And what else we have out there?
Oh, my gosh.
You see 'em?
Because this is a cultural treasure. This is an American cultural food treasure.
Right.
The cheese curd.
Yeah,
I
what
had
is
that
a
brought
cheese
in.
curd?
Oh, goodness. You're from
Leland-
Wisconsin. I'm from Minnesota,
Oh, my
which means
God.
we both love cheese.
Leland, have a cheese curd.
It's a fair question.
Okay.
Because it's
Thank
a
you.
different
I
thing of
appreciate
cheese.
this,
Like
Rick.
I've eaten them many times and I love them, but what makes it a cheese curd versus
There's a
cheese?
certain process.
Beer
It's the-
battered.
And when they
dripping
process the cheeses, but
It's true.
it's beer battered and fried cheese. What could be
The
bad
point
about
is
that?
these American foods
Nothing.
are way better than
Delicious.
French foods. And the reason you pick cheeseburger and I pick cheeseburger is because every American picks cheeseburgers. It's because we